All right. We good?
Yep.
Okay, so the air squat, couple things. First thing I'm gonna do is have her get her feet placement set. Okay? So for Katie, we're gonna go a little bit wider. Good. Right there. Notice she's got a little bit of her toes out, pointed out a little bit, and that's okay, as long as she doesn't get really wide with it. Typically you want straight ahead, but we know right now, especially, she's pregnant, so we're gonna have her push her toes out a little bit so it's a little bit easier for her to get down. But not just her, for me even, just the way my hips are, it makes it a little bit easier for me to get the bottom dip. But anyways, she's gonna have her feet here. Then what I'm gonna have her do is put her arms out straight. One hand over the other, okay? Just like this. This gives her a nice flat back. So she'll turn. Now you notice, flat back, put your arms down. We don't want her slumped like this already from the start, okay? Arms are up. She's nice and tight here, okay? Then from there, with that good foot position, all I'm gonna tell her to do is squat down. Come up. Good, relax. That's obviously a pretty good squat. It's typically not how it works. So I'm gonna show you with the box. We're gonna pretend Katie doesn't know how to squat, okay? So she's gonna go back into that foot position again. Looks good, arms up. Now, what I would tell the athlete is to squat down. Their target is to touch their butt to the box. Okay, go ahead and squat. And up. Good, one more. And I'm watching right here. Hold it right there. She's still really good. You don't see that big butt wink pulling underneath. You don't see her rounding like this to get down. Okay. Also, go ahead and face the camera. This way they can see this. Watch her knee position. Okay, so then as I'm watching her knees, how they track. They're looking pretty good. And what I mean by that is femur down to the shin. Okay, it's good position here. It's not buckled in. Or sometimes you'll see one leg, sometimes you'll see both legs. Start seeing those things, we know we got some issues. Go ahead and stand up. So that's a good squat, what I would consider, hope I didn't cut my head off. A good squat considering with the legs and the hips and the back position that we talked about on the podcast. What happens if she starts buckling? Come back and face them again. Let's say I got her set up, and this may be yourself. You go ahead and squat down to that box, and she starts going on, let her stop right there. And all of a sudden, this starts folding here, knees start buckling. Go ahead and face this way now. Sorry to make you do all this. And what happens here, she's rounding already, and that's what we're talking about. It might be hard to see in the video. Now, yeah, there you go, thank you. Now she's amplifying that problem. This is what I'm talking about with that butt wink, or her pelvis pulling her, her pelvis tilting, pulling her under. Go ahead, stand up. That's gonna be a problem. That's where I would say, okay, that's not what I want. Come back again, and I'm gonna have you squat. Now I'm just gonna hold her arms up a little bit. Slowly squat down, hold it. Now her back's nice and flat. Nice neutral position here. Thighs are still out. You might not be able to see real well in the video, but her knees are still in a good position. Then I'm just gonna tell her to come up. Good. And you see she can't have so much force, she's cracking. So what happened was, I didn't make her go all the way to the full squat because that's okay. She's in a good position. Now what I might do is try to have her work it down a little bit more. So arms back up, let's go down, hold it in that same spot, hold. Then I'm gonna say, squeeze your stomach really hard. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Now slowly come down more. Hold it, push the thighs out a little bit more. Good. Squat down a little bit more, hold it. Now we're where we wanna be. And up. Awesome. So the good thing for me is, as a coach, and if she can't get all the way down there, I'm not gonna force it. I tried it, it worked, so with her it was doable. But if I have somebody that just cannot get there, that's okay. We're gonna stop there and have them come back up. Couple big things that you can check with your athlete or yourself. If you're struggling to come down, I would say 9 out of 10 times it's your mobility is going to be the issue. More than likely. And the one way to figure that out is I usually take plates, little 5-pounders. I'll have them stand out in front, put their heels, just their heels on them. okay? And typically what will happen, those people that have a struggle getting all the way down, she's gonna squat in that same position, and she's gonna drop down really easy. You can see for her, it's really easy now for her coming up, because she's already good enough at it, but it just made it even easier. Hopefully that makes sense for what we're looking for. So if you're having trouble getting all the way down, with all the things that we were talking about, what I'm looking for to be good, start with that, with the plates. And if you're one of those people, then you know it's a mobility issue. It's an ankle mobility issue and a hip mobility issue. And there's a lot of exercises that you can do to improve those areas. Even when you do improve those areas though, even with those all little fancy exercises to work on your mobility, you still need to come back to this and perfect this movement. So eventually you would do your squats, with the plates, and then eventually hopefully you can move them out of the way and you don't need them anymore. All right? So that's one good way to check that. The other thing, with the rounded back, go ahead and face this direction. She's gonna squat down. A lot of times I'll see this, the powerlifting squat, and she still makes it look pretty good, but go ahead, there you go. And stand back up. If that's the issue, it's real simple. I'll just stand in front of her. Go ahead, put your arms up. This is just like the wall. Now squat down. Don't touch me. And good. Just straightened her up. Pretty simplistic. You don't need much. A lot of the things we'll show you, you don't need many tools for. Everybody thinks you need the barbells and all this fancy stuff like we were talking about before. That basic air squat, if you can perfect this, all those other things will be a lot easier for you instead of just throwing a weight on or a barbell or what have you. So that is our air squat. Talking about the squats in particular as far as your Olympic and back. So after we perfect that air squat, depending on what movement we're going to do, let's say for the day we're going to do a back squat, a powerlifting back squat. Let's just pretend this is a bar, obviously a PVC pipe. But as you can see, her position is going to be right here in the lower part of her back. It's not up here on the top of the traps. Okay, so it's a little bit lower. Okay. Then she can also have a little bit more of a forward lean because of that bar position. As she squats down, good, she can have a little bit of a lean, but she's in a nice straight line. Come back up. And what I mean by that is where that bar sits, she'll be able to lift more weight because of leverage wise. Okay. Obviously, if the weight is pushed up way more, that's why you'll see some people do really low back squat. Hers was probably about medium. But if now they put it in an Olympic squat where the bar is way up here, it's going to force her forward more. And that's the whole point of the Olympic squat, to help with Olympic lifts. As she squats down, okay, she's going to go more on her toes and she's going to feel herself go forward. Okay? And then she's going to have to drive through the quads more. Okay? That's more of the Olympic style squat. Stance is typically a little bit closer, just like she is. The back squat, more for a power lift. She's gonna be a little bit wider, a little bit lower, typically. That's not everybody, but it's just working two different groups of muscles and different struggle areas, okay? But with that being said, there's a couple key things that have to happen. Even in the Olympic squat, what has to happen? She has to have good knee position. She needs to maintain control at the bottom, and she needs to keep good position for back. It needs to be vertical. She needs to be, especially in an Olympic squat, she needs to be really upright. Okay? A couple things that'll help that out when you have your bars. I always say pull down the bar, pull down like you're trying to pull it apart. She's pulling down hard here. Everything up in the upper back is engaged, and then she'll go ahead and do her Olympic squat. That's pretty darn strong coming back up. That's upright, looks really good. Turn this way just a little bit so they can see a little bit more. One more time with that Olympic squat, pulling down hard on that bar and up. Good. But you can do the same thing with the low back. She puts in her low back, do the same thing. Still pull down hard on the bar. Stay tense throughout the whole body. Go down. Come up. Good. feet are a little bit wider. She's pulling down a little bit harder. The bar is set a little bit lower on her back so she can use her erectors a little bit more and use a little bit more of a forward lean for those that want to do more of a power lift, okay? But once again, it goes back to the basics. So if I see my athlete squat with the pipe and she goes down, she bottoms out like we talked earlier, bottoms out. That's what we mean by bottoming out. If some of you look at it like, wow, it's a great squat, great mobility. Problem with that is, if there's a lot of weight on here, what's going to happen is she's going to do this, fold forward, then she's going to come up with her butt first, and then she's going to stand up. If you're one of those, and it happens a lot, hopefully I'm not really wrecking your world. Squat down.
I can hold an air squat. So.
My bad. And then she's holding it, she does forward, and then she'll raise her butt up, and then they'll stick their hips through. That's not what we want to see, and you'll see a lot of that with people that bottom out. Because when you bottom out, you're not tense, you're not tight. So the first thing you do is you raise your hips up, and then you try to fire everything else, right? Now, if she stays real tight and keeps everything firing, squat down, then drive up. Good. I always say squeeze your cheeks on the way up to get that hip extension. The thing about it, that helps keep your butt from rising, because if you're trying to squeeze your cheeks as you rise, you can't rise your hips. So if you're one of those people that rise your hips first, think about squeezing your butt right away as you come out of the bottom of the hole. I call it the bottom hole, but the bottom of the squat, okay? Start squeezing your hips, or your butt right away, so you extend your hips right away as you're coming up, as opposed to raising the hips, which means they're not extended, okay? This motion. Squat back down again. Come back up, squeeze. Beautiful. One more time. Come back up, squeeze. Good. That's controlled squat. Do a bottom out squat again. Yeah, not liking that. And you'll see this. These are things you're going to see. Some people are very mobile, but they lack a lot of strength and what I call tenseness. Being able to stay tight. They almost even hard for them to understand, because they're so used to stretching, and being very loose. It's counterproductive sometimes. Okay? So, with that squat, a couple key things. I'm going to go through them again. Let's just pretend you don't even have the bar now. We kind of went over that. So she'll put her arms up. And you can use that pipe, a pipe, or even a person. She's going to squat down, staying tight. Hold. Up. Squeeze. Beautiful. Back down. Tight. Hold. Up. Squeeze. Awesome. Very good. So those are some great squats. Another big one. What I like to do too is, she gets back in that squat stance. I think of squeezing my quads. When I squat, or when I used to compete even, I would squeeze my quads as hard as I could and squeeze my butt. Just standing there. Most people won't even understand what that feels like. And then for me to say squeeze and push, they're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. So sometimes even start talking basics. This is basic. Stand there, I'm going to tell her, squeeze your quads, squeeze your butt real hard. Look what happened. She's braced. Wow, amazing. Squeeze your butt, squeeze your quads. Then relax them, then put your arms up and squat. And you should be able to find those muscles right away. Stand up and squeeze. Okay? You're sending a pre-signal from your brain to those muscles to fire. That's just my opinion. That's what I like to do in my squat, because I think it's underdone. I think a lot of people just squat, drop, right? Like we saw the bottom out squat. That's definitely not activating your muscles first and then going into the squat. That's just dropping. So if you have that issue of trying to fix that bottom out squat, I would start with that. Just squeeze those muscles and be like, okay, yeah, they're tight. That's what tight means. And then sit into that squat, then come up, squeeze again. It'll work, trust me. One other thing. When I say, go ahead and face them again. We talked about knees out. So obviously we're talking about the tracking of knees, what I'm looking for. Okay? When she squats, if she's, go ahead and squat down and kind of keep your knees coming in a little bit. Squat down, hold it. And it right here is where it gets uncomfortable. She feels like she's gonna fall, guarantee it. We were talking about those athletes earlier that I could push over pretty easy. That's where the problem is. Now I'm just gonna say, push your knees apart. Hold. See how stable she is? I can't push her around. That's what I call in control. Are you burning it? Good, stand up. You get a lot of spots up. So that's a good way to know if you're doing it correctly, if you're not gonna fall. I don't like the knee out terminology. If I can need to think about, and I'll tell Katie, is when she squats, the thing about opening up her groin, you want to sit into that. And what you can feel when you do it, because it is different, if you open up your groin and sit in it, you're going to feel pull in your hamstrings on the inside, right into your groin area. Especially when you sit into your squat, you're going to feel these muscles on the inside. I'll grab myself usually. On the inside that are firing when you sit into it. And trust me, if you never felt it before, you will days later. You're gonna be like, whoa, I don't feel just my front of my legs. It's all in here, and it's hard. I call it when you have to grab the old shit handles when you have to go to the bathroom. Like, it hurts inside. That's what you're looking for. And those are some of the muscles you want to activate when you're going down. Not necessarily just saying, push your knees apart. We can all push your knees apart, but we don't quite understand what we're trying to do there. So pushing far apart is also not a good thing if it goes too far. I think I hit them all, I hope. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. She's good at squats, so it should look good and should know what it's supposed to look like. But use your phone, watch yourself from the angles that I just showed you. Side angle, front angle, and you will see what's going wrong and what we were talking about in the video. Videos don't lie, so just take a video of yourself and you'll find out real quick if you're doing what you need to do.